we've got this amazing guest who's been waiting patiently. Thomas Iland, has been with us many times before on the show. He was diagnosed at the age of 13 years old, and after accepting his diagnosis, Thomas has gone on to be recognized as an award-winning author and a thought leader. How amazing is that? He was working as a certified public accountant, respectably working as a certified public accountant in 2015 when he made the decision that that was not what he wanted to do with his life. He has since become a keynote speaker, a certified human potential coach, and a diversity and inclusion consultant, which we will always want to know more about that. He is now the owner of Come to Life Coaching, which is based on the title of his best-selling book, Come to Life, which we've featured before on the show. It's called Come to Life, Your Guide to Self-Discovery. And I want to tell you that right before it came out, my son and I got to do some of the exercises in the book. And if you have a teen, I really want to encourage you to give yourself the favor of getting this workbook and doing it with your teen. You will be closer as a result, I guarantee you. Thomas's mission is to empower individuals on and off the autism spectrum to live the life of their choice. Don't we all love that? He has spoken, get this, at the United Nations. He's given a TED Talk entitled How to Come to Life. And he is the only Toastmaster International accredited speaker with autism in the world. How's that for a credential? He currently lives in Santa Clarita, California with his dog, Bridget. And he recently received the Junior Chamber International's prestigious 10 Outstanding Young Americans Award. And he has finished his first Ironman triathlon. Ironman triathlon. And so let's welcome Thomas Iland back to the show.
Good morning,
Thomas.
good morning, Shannon, and happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. We engineered it so that you would be here today on Valentine's Day because we have much to talk about with love and love on the spectrum. Not the TV show, but the reality of it every day when it's not being recorded. So you've got a really interesting gig that is starting soon, like next week, I think, right?
2 weeks from now on the 28th. It's with
Okay.
the Ed Asner Family Center. It's called Dating, or rather, The Dating Spectrum. And this is designed to help people on the autism spectrum find romance, relationships, and find love starting with themselves, loving themselves first.
Yeah, and I love this. I think who better than you, Thomas, to be someone. It's not just you. There's a team of people, including Krissa Saad, right, is going to be joining
That's
you.
her.
She's an LMFT. We've had her on the show before. But I love this because I think it's important that there are aspects of this that somebody really needs to learn from somebody who's been there and is doing that, right?
Most definitely. I think we find that a lot of times people on the autism spectrum, when they hear it from one of their peers, namely a man on the autism spectrum and the struggles that he's been through and also the successes that he's had in the process, that allows them to relate more and have more hope for their own lives, that they too can have a meaningful and productive relationship.
Yeah, and I also want to say, because in the past at the Ed Asner Center too, they've had a woman spectrum come in as well. I don't want people to be
Yes.
like, well, why is it just a man? But so let's go back for just a second. And should I only be calling you Thomas or Tom?
You
What's
can call me Tom.
okay? I just have known you forever as Tom, and I keep bobbling it. So
No, it's quite all right.
thank you. So when is this happening? Is it only in person? How can people find out more information about it?
So it's for 8 consecutive Mondays starting Monday, February 28th. And there is a little bit of an application process. So you email the Ed Asner Family Center. They'll do a Zoom interview with you to see why you want to be in this workshop. What do you want to get out of it? And then they'll vet the best student or candidates to be there. And then it is set to be in person. And I don't know if there's a virtual option at the moment. You might have to contact Krista or the Ed Asner Family Center to finalize logistics. But we're looking at about maybe 10 to 12 students in person to be in all 8 Monday courses.
Fantastic. And of course, you guys can always go to the Ed Asner Family Center. I think it's
Center.
edasnerfamilycenter.com.
I think it's .org actually, a nonprofit,
Dot
so
.org,
.org.
excuse me. Okay, so you can go there and you can get more information about this to get signed up. And I want to be clear because I think everybody gets a little squishy when they're like, "Oh, there's an application process." Da 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 da. Da. But every single expert that we've had on this show, when we're talking about things of this nature, it's important to know that the individual wants it, that they have a vested interest, because mom might be saying, well, I really want her to date, but if she doesn't want to date, that's not what these kinds of things are for. Same thing with anxiety. If there's not a vested interest in working on it. So I love that you guys are going through a process and talking about why do you want to do this before people are chosen to be in the class, because I do think some well-meaning, those of us who are parents, sometimes we're like, well, I really want this for my kid, but these are the kinds of things that they've got to want. But let's talk for individuals on the spectrum who do want it. Let's talk a little bit about why you need to work on it, because this can be a little bit dicey and a little bit difficult for folks on the spectrum. That's why there's a whole season 2 of Love on the Spectrum on Netflix, because it's sort of fascinating. So tell us a little bit about some of the successes and struggles you have found, Tom, with romantic relationships throughout the years.
So shortly after I got diagnosed, around 13 years old, I saw amongst my peers that there are like boyfriends and girlfriends, people dating on the campus. And I'm like, well, I want to have a girlfriend too. So if I saw a girl I liked, I would go to ask her out. And I was kind of the weird kid in the class. I was very, very strong academically, not so strong socially.
Hmm.
And because of that lack of experience, I was a target for a lot of bullies, namely football players. They would set me up for scenarios like, hey, that cheerleader over there likes you. Go ask her out. I'm thinking, yeah, I want to
Mm.
date a cheerleader. So I'm going to ask her out, but I get rejected. And I have a little bit of a philosophy like persistence pays off. So I go to ask her again, and she rejects me again. I'm like, one more time. So I go to ask her and get rejected again. And I'm starting to cause a little bit of a scene. People are gathering around, kind of laughing at me like, this guy's not
Oh,
taking a hint.
Tom.
So my sister saw what happened, told my mother about it, and basically we established, okay, maybe cheerleaders aren't the best dating material for me. I probably could get one today, but at least at the time, that
Yeah.
wasn't the best approach. And my mother actually formed a little bit of a stereotype that stuck with me and the family for a bit. She was under the impression, because of situations like that, that I could not succeed in a relationship unless the girl also had autism.
Oh,
So I thought
interesting.
about that, and there weren't too many women on the spectrum that I was going to school with, and started to expand my horizons a little bit, and had some good and not so good dating experiences with women, both on and off the autism spectrum, as well as older and younger women. So I've kind of been all over the place since that first instance of wanting to date cheerleaders.
Yeah. And I feel like my memory of when I first met you was that you were in a relationship that had been a pretty long-term relationship that you subsequently you decided to end after that. I hope I'm not bringing up personal things, because this was just when I met you that I was aware, because as a parent, I think we meet people like you on the spectrum that are like having these successful careers and having a life. I think sometimes we ask things that are inappropriate because we just want to know, how's it going for you. And when I met you, you were a CPA with a girlfriend, and I was like, man, he's got it all figured out. And then later, when I heard that you were the one who broke it off, because I think that that's also a sign of being really healthy, to understand that the relationship is not for you and decide that you're going to leave the relationship. I just was blown away by that, Tom. I always was like, oh man, Tom's got it all together. Am I getting too personal?
Not at all. And I appreciate your words of encouragement. And I'm an open book, so I can talk about this particular
Okay.
topic. And to give you some context, yes, there was a woman that lived in another state who came to live with me. We'd been pen pals for about 10 years before we decided to become a couple. And she took a big leap of faith going from a rural part of the country to suburban Los Angeles. And At the same time, being on the autism spectrum herself, she didn't have any services or supports her entire childhood, whereas I
Mm.
did. So I had access to uh, therapies and classes and courses that helped me become my best self. So my mother and I are working to help her get like a job coach, someone to help her with
Mm.
college, someone to help with independent living. And she calls her parents back in where she was from, and her parents are also on the spectrum. The parents responded, "They're looking to change you. Don't let them."
Oh. Oh.
So my now ex-girlfriend was resisting all of the help, and I know what it's like to be like the kid that's left out, and it took me a long time to get to where I am today. So I wanted to be patient, let her kind of come into her own, grow at her own pace. Well,
Yeah.
after about 4 years of it, and I turned 30, I reevaluated where I was in life. I decided I don't want to repeat of the last 4 years, and I'm shooting for the stars where she's having trouble leaving the launch pad.
Yeah.
So I had to
Yeah.
say, it's time to end this.
There you go. Well, very mature of you to recognize and say we're headed in different directions. And I
Mhm.
think that that's very common in relationships where, the individuals are not on the spectrum, where one is like, I want to progress. I want to, have a bigger life. And the other one is like, I don't, I'm happy with the way I am. I don't want to do self-improvement. So all of that makes sense. And we talked already about the fact that sometimes there are challenges that individuals on the spectrum face, but I think we should also take a second and acknowledge the other part of it too, that there are some things that people on the spectrum bring to the dating process that we wish that other people had. What are some of the strengths that people on the spectrum bring to the dating process?
I think people on the autism spectrum, when they're in a loving, committed relationships, are wonderful listeners. Like they'll be there for you when you need them more than anything. And I think when they're in a relationship, when they're committed, they give everything that they've got.
Mhm.
They're
Mhm.
very loving and almost to a fault, because something that I've noticed over the years is I'll be very loving, very giving, almost to the point of smothering and overwhelming. And I may have to scale things back a bit. And also, I wasn't really picking up on the possibility of if I was being used. So a
Mm.
relationship should be a two-way street, a little bit of give and take from both
Yes.
parties. If I'm doing all the giving, 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 and she's doing all the taking, 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 then that's not good for me.
Right. On
So,
both sides of that, that's
so it
not
works
good.
both ways.
Yeah, I often say anymore. I would say that the number of people that I consider friends and people that I'm close to that are on the spectrum now is higher than 50% of the people that aren't. And one of the things I really notice is that there are sometimes when I just want someone to tell me the truth, and I'll find myself in a room full of people who aren't telling me the truth.
Uh
And
huh.
I find myself going, if I were in a room full of people on the spectrum, I would not be feeling what I'm feeling right now because somebody would have already told me that I have a giant schmutz on my face and while everybody else is like, no, you look good. And I'm
Hmm.
speaking metaphorically, but um, I do appreciate that folks on the spectrum almost, I'm going to speak in generalities here, but they're going to tell you what's really happening so that you don't have to guess, and it's so much less work. I think that that's got to be a plus in relationships, to just know where you are, and that the person says what they mean and mean what they say, and that there isn't this whole other game that sometimes people who are not on the spectrum insist on playing that isn't fun for anyone. Sarah saying, hi, Tom. Wow, amazing story. Thanks for sharing. You are a great role model of persuasion and hope to parents like me.
That's what I'm
Absolutely.
shooting for, Sarah. Thank you very
There
much.
we
And
go.
and you're right, Shannon. The people on the autism spectrum tend to have a lot of candor and a lot of honesty. Again, almost to a fault. So you ask someone with
Yes.
autism, "Does this dress make me look fat?" You
Right.
might get a yes, it does from
That's
them.
right.
You
That's
asked.
That's right. That absolutely. And sometimes you're in a place to take that, and sometimes you're not, right? But we need to be cognizant of the fact that when we do ask them, we are going to get an honest answer. So and you're going to be teaching skills to folks on the spectrum at this dating on the spectrum at the Ed Asner Family Center. Tom, what would you say was the big turning point for you in that how you to get to the point where dating and relationships easier?
Well, right around the time I ended high school and started college, reality TV was really starting to come about,
Mhm.
and there was a little social experiment that Ashton Kutcher started called Beauty and the Geek. And I don't know if you've ever heard this show, but
I did,
it
yes.
takes 8 very smart but very geeky guys and pair them up with 8 beautiful but maybe not so intelligent women, and they learn from one another through a series of social experiments and situations. And they're learning from one another as to what kind of things are missing or why their past relationships weren't working. And about halfway through each season, the geeks would get makeovers, whole new wardrobe,
Mhm.
haircut, eyebrows done, waxing if need be. And
Yes.
it was because of that show that I get my eyebrows trimmed every 6 weeks to this day. Like
Wow.
clockwork, I maintain my hair and my beard every so often,
Yeah.
and got new clothes and found newfound confidence by changing myself, my image up. And it wasn't a matter of conforming to society or what society wanted or expected of me. It's what I wanted for myself. And
Yeah.
as a result of seeing what women wanted, what kind of clothes they like, what they're attracted to, I got dates.
There you go. There you go. It's so funny because when you put it that way, I mean, we've gone through two generations of Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, which is just
Hmm.
makeovers, right? But we've discovered that a makeover is much more than the clothes you wear. It's how you feel and the
Hmm.
confidence with which you go out into the world. And when somebody goes to do a makeover on somebody on Queer Eye, we don't go, "Oh, what are you doing? You're not accepting them for who they are. You're changing them." Partially because the people are there and go, I want to be a makeover. I want to look
Hmm.
more attractive. I think we all, want to know what's hip or cool or whatever. So I love that that reality show made you realize, oh, eyebrows are something that if you do a little, time and care with them, I can feel better about myself. It didn't change who Tom was, excuse me, but it made you have a different level of confidence, and people, yes, people did look at you in a different way, but that's the only reason why you were dating. So I absolutely love that. I have said that I think that people watching those dating reality shows, there's a lot to be learned in those shows. So that's amazing
Hmm.
that you got that from that show. Sarah also wants to know, do you also coach kids like 8-year-olds with social skills, Tom?
I haven't coached an 8-year-old as of late, but yes, I can coach young people with social skills and introduce them to my book and help them prepare for the life that they want to live and get ready for transition to adulthood, because we all want our young people to be successful and happy and live a life that's true to them, and this can help make that happen. So yes, I could
You do,
assist your young one
and
with
you do
social
coach, and
skills.
you're willing to coach over distance, right, Tom? You
I
can
do.
do
My
yeah.
A lot of my clients are virtual, and then they pay me electronically, so it works out, and it's actually made a pretty good living for me during this pandemic. And
We love
I
that.
also wanted to touch on family, because my sister and my mother also gave me some much needed perspective, because I was improving my exterior, what's on the
Mhm.
outside, but I also had to improve my skill sets. And my
Yeah.
sister told me, Tom, girls like a guy who knows how to cook. Girls like a guy who knows how to dance. Girls like a guy who knows how to keep himself clean. So I learned how to cook. I learned how to dance, and I learned good hygiene. And then I got more dates because I
Yeah.
had the right skill set. So it's not just what's on the outside, but also what you know and what you can perform that matters
Absolutely.
in your
I
relationships.
love that your sister was sort of taking you in hand. Can you hold your book back up though? Because I
Sure.
want to finish
Put that right
answering.
back up here.
So Come to Life, and you can order that on Amazon right now, right?
Yes, you can find it on Amazon. You can also go to my website in my description here, cometolifecoaching.com, and eliminate the middleman that is Amazon. And you can even get it
Yes.
personalized, signed by me. If you go through me, you can't get it signed if you go through Amazon. So
There you
go to
go.
my website if you'd like to order
So
my
now
quick little transition.
because Sarah was asking about an 8-year-old. I was doing the exercises in that book when my son was like, I think 14 or 15, if I'm remembering correctly. Is 8 a little too young for some of the exercises, Tom, or are there things she could start on with an 8-year-old in there?
Well, even the first activity in the book, "Who's My Superhero," where
Mm.
the child looks at what kind of character or person in their life, living or dead, is meaningful to them, and why is that character or person meaningful to the child, and what that person or character has going for them, and then eventually see that they too can be like that hero over the
Yeah.
course of their life and or the activities in that book. So there is a way to relate to young people. Come to Life was originally designed for about maybe 10 to 12 and older, but I could see it possibly working with an 8-year-old given the right circumstances.
And I want to say, Sarah, that the thing that I particularly loved about when my son and I were doing it is that not, I did it because I wanted to know for him what his thoughts were. Because don't we all want that always? Don't we just want to like crawl inside our kids' heads and not disturb anything, but be able to look around and get to know them better? And have those deep conversations that we always thought we were going to have with our kids. Well, I found that it was really helpful for that. But there was an unexpected plus that came from it because, you both do the exercise and then you talk about it afterwards. And obviously, there's different levels depending on the functionality of your kiddos of how deep you're going to get with this and depending upon their age and what's appropriate, right? But what also happened was that I didn't expect was that my son learned about me. So that I did the exercise and we said, okay, so which superhero would you like to be like and why? And he was telling me, which helped me to learn about him, also helped him to learn about himself, by the way. But then there was also the thing where he learned about me, which I didn't expect to be this unexpected bonus, but it was really thrilling. We had a good time with it. So I highly, highly, highly recommend the book. Get it, and if you don't do the whole book with your kiddos, it's not like it's an Ironman triathlon, Tom.
Right.
Like you have to finish, but let's just say that spring break, if you did an exercise a day, I think you'd find that you both would find it really exciting. So, and you don't have to put your self pressure to do the whole thing. But anyway, that's Tom's book. Let's get back to the dating thing because this is really exciting. So you're going to be doing the dating spectrum, and you think you're going to have about 12 people who are going to be participating. And tell me what their ages are going to be again. What's the youngest you can be in the dating spectrum?
It's
Do
my
they have to be?
understanding, and I'm actually meeting with Chris later this afternoon to finalize the curriculum and what
Mhm.
we're doing. But it's my understanding this is for adults, so you have to
Yeah,
be at
so
least
18 and up.
18.
Yeah. That makes sense to me. And so you guys are still firming everything up, but what kinds of things are you going to be working on? Like what can we expect as either individuals who are on the spectrum or parents of those individuals? What kinds of things will you guys be working on?
So some examples of some of the things we'll be teaching are like what a relationship is, signs that a relationship is working or maybe not working, and then we get into a little bit more complex items like we'll do some dating role playing or like improvisational scenarios, or like we'll pretend to be at a coffee shop making small talk or chit chat, and then even more abstract or complex situations like boundaries or what is safe sex and how to look out for cyber predators and not go to bad site websites and what kind of dangerous behaviors our young people might be doing that if they continue could land them on the wrong side of the law. So
Yeah.
this is some stuff that's going to be pretty hardcore and really deep into the trenches, but really our young people and even people not on the autism spectrum could use some more information
A-
about.
Look, we could all use this help, right?
Mhm.
And are you going to do some of the things like your sister said to you that you need to know? You need to keep your hygiene, and you need to know how to have a conversation, and you need to have like cook and be able to dance. Are you going to work on any of that stuff as well?
Depending on the candidates or the students that are there and what kind of needs they have and where the information gaps might be, and
Okay.
as as to where they are in their life or their relationship. So we're kind of playing it by ear in a little bit, and I'm I can roll with the
Okay.
punches as needed, but I've got a couple of um,
Yeah,
good
you're gonna
scenarios and
fit it
stories I
to
can
their
share.
individual needs. I get it.
Yes.
That's a good answer. And again, that starts in 2 weeks, and it's
Mhm.
at the Ed Asner Center. And the plan is for this to be in person, so that means that it would be people in the Los Angeles area. If you have a child who is no longer a child, who is now adult, they're still your child. You know what I mean? One of your children. I don't even know what the proper. If you have adult children, that doesn't even
Right.
sound right, right? But what do we say? I don't know. I'll find that word. But they're still your children. That you would like to participate, or if you yourself are an adult on the spectrum and you would like to participate, you want to go to edasnercenter.org. Um, find the information, fill out the application so that you can have the conversation about that. I think that that is really amazing. I gotta ask you about the triathlon. What you're doing with that, Tom? Like what? Because that was a whole thing. How long did you have to prepare to do that? And are you still working on that? Are you going to do another one?
So right around the time the pandemic started, I had put on the COVID-19 pounds and decided I need to work some of this weight off. So around last April, right after I got vaccinated, I started training and looking at what courses there are locally, and I went up to Salem, Oregon, and completed a half Ironman. I did it with about 7.5 minutes to spare in 90-degree heat, and that is really something because the too much sun is like kryptonite to me. So I'm like walking, trudging along, but I finally got it done. But a half Ironman wasn't enough for me. I wanted to go for the full. So I've been training ever since. I did attempt a full in Texas in October, but there was too much humidity and
Yeah.
some unexpected hills and headwinds. I did not finish the race in Texas. So I've been training since October some more and doing a little bit more hills because those hills can also kind of take away my energy, and I am now signed up for a full in Des Moines, Iowa on June 12th.
Okay.
Des Moines,
Now,
Iowa, June 12th.
okay. So I didn't know. Is there a time limit that you have to do it with? I thought you could take as long as you wanted.
I wish. You have to complete a half within 8.5 hours, and you have to do a full within 17.
And tell us. So what do you have to do the whole thing?
Okay. So for the full Ironman, you get into the water. It starts with a 2.4 mile swim. It could be
Okay.
a one-way river, it could be around a lake, and you have to complete that swim within 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Okay.
So then you get out of the water, you get your bike gear on and start off on your bike. You have to go 112 miles and be at 10 hours, 20 minutes by the time you finish that.
Oh my God.
And then you
Okay.
transition into your running clothes, and then you have 6.5 hours to run a full marathon, 26.2 miles. So
Oh,
140.6 miles in 17 hours or less.
okay.
And
So that's what you're going for on June 12th, but the half is just half of all of that. So
that's
it's a
right.
half marathon, and you were able to finish that in less than 8.5 hours.
That's right.
And I can't even imagine like how tired you must have been when that happened. Did you take a team of
You should
people
have
with
seen
you?
me after I crossed the finish line. I found a grassy spot in the shade, and I just kind of laid down there for about 3
Oh,
minutes. Medical staff came over, said, "Are you okay?" I said, "I'm fine. Can I have some water, please?"
yeah, yeah. I can't even imagine. After being in motion that long, I'm sure that it must feel like your body almost can't stop. Because
Mhm.
that is just crazy. Well, that's quite an accomplishment, Tom. We're going to be cheering you on in Des Moines. That is crazy, crazy, crazy. I can't even get my head wrapped around that. And why did you want to do that, Tom? Why was that the thing you felt you wanted to push yourself towards?
Well, about 5 years ago, I went to a workshop called One Day to Greatness. It's through Jack Canfield. He wrote the Chicken Soup for the Soul
Yeah.
books, and he told some stories about people running and finishing Ironman competitions. So I'm like, well, I want to do that. So I recently finished the half, and I also saw a story back in November of 2020. A man about 20 something years old with Down syndrome finished a full Ironman in about 16 hours, 46 minutes, and set a
Wow.
Guinness World Record in November
Wow.
2020. And I looked up the Guinness World Records. Nobody on the autism spectrum has ever finished a full Ironman. So if
Wow.
I
So
finish Des
you're going to be
Moines
the
in
first.
time, I could set a Guinness World Record.
You're going to be the first, Tom.
I
It's
want
so
to be the first.
inspirational. Well, you're an amazing guy, Tom Iland, and what a gift to our community and what a gift to our kids. If you just loved this time that we spent with Tom, first of all, if you're in the LA area and you or someone you love is an adult on the spectrum and you'd like to be able to take the dating spectrum class, then please reach out to the Ed Asner Family Center. But if you are interested in one-on-one coaching with Tom, you can do come to lifecoaching.com.
Mhm.
So again, that's come to
And
lifecoaching.com.
here's my email address if anybody wants to shoot me an email.
There we go. And I think Traven will probably put that up on the screen in a second. It's tom@thomasisland.com. Now, here's the thing about when you say island, because it's pronounced just like the piece of land out in the ocean,
Mhm.
island, but it does not have the S. There is
Right.
no S in island. So it's Thomas, THOMAS, island, ILAND. So island without the S.
Correct.
And of course, we hope that you will go there to purchase his book and reach out to him to ask him a question or talk to him about coaching for yourself or a loved one, because that's a fun thing to do. We also have to give a shout out to your mother. Please make sure that you give her our love, because your mother is an amazing human being, and we're sending her all the love in the world, okay, on
Thank you so
Valentine's Day.
much.
And Tom, just keep in touch with us. We want to know how the dating spectrum goes, and we want to know how your Ironman triathlon
Mhm.
goes. Craziness, full one. We'll be thinking of you on June 12th. So thank you for being with us, Tom.
Thank you, Shannon. It's really nice to be here today.
Thanks for watching Autism Live. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.